Hey, it's Nick Capozzi, and welcome to Razzball Radio, and a happy Canada Day, 1st of July, to all my knuckleheads out there. I'm going to tell you something. We scored a big get today. Now, if you've been listening to the Razzball podcast for the last couple of years, you know we've had some great guests like Peter King, who I'm just going to throw out there, may be the best get we've ever had, but I'll throw this out as 1B. We are really, I don't know how many more times I can say really, excited to have Nando DiFino on Razzball Radio today. Nando, what's up?
Nick, you tell everyone they're 1B probably, don't you?
No, listen, man.
Yeah.
Listen. I'm a big podcast guy. I listen to podcasts obsessively. And when I heard you were now with the Fantasy Sports Network, I said, we're getting Nando on the show come hell or high water, whatever I got to do to get Nando on the show. So we're really genuinely excited to have you on today, pal.
Thanks, man. It feels good to be here.
Absolutely. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Nando DiFino, and he's with the Fantasy Sports Network right now, so things are looking bright and sunshiny. Hey, Nando, listen, we're going to talk a little fantasy baseball, but just before we get to that, you and I have talked a little bit about this, but part of what we're doing this year is this insane tour where I'm packing up this studio right here, putting it into a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van and taking it on the road. 32 fantasy football drafts in 32 straight days in all 32 pro football cities across America. When we're in New York on August 21st, you know I'm dragging you out, brother.
I'll do it. I'll draft. I'll work the boards, man. Give me the stickers. You're coming to Hoboken, dude. I'll be there. It's my backyard.
Done. Okay, seriously. So there you go. When you're getting your tour tickets at razzballtour.com now, we got Nando for Hoboken and New Jersey. He's running the draft board for the draft. So there you go. So that's going to be a lot of fun. You know, one quick thing too. When we get to South Florida, the only thing I have to do is get a haircut that doesn't look like a haircut. So I don't know if you know any hairdressers out there. Maybe Adam Azer can introduce us to some that specialize in that. But
Goes to some girl. He and Jamie Eisenberg use the same barber. I've never gone to her. I do this now. I just buzz it off.
It's not a barber. It's a hairdresser, as I understood.
True. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I love Adam, man. Seriously, though, I'd love to ask for a haircut. Doesn't look like a haircut. All right, let's get talking about some fantasy baseball here. The Cards have been looking to generate some offense. They called up Oscar Taveras. Mike Matheny said he's not likely to get daily playing time, but they're looking to increase what they're able to do offensively. Is he worth rostering in redraft leagues? It looks like on the surface, obviously, but is there something deeper there we should be looking at?
No, I think with these, especially these top prize prospects, you can't not play them. It's kind of been proven time and time again that if you don't, you just kind of stunt them. Like Nick Franklin earlier this year.
Right.
I think they're going to shift enough guys around. John Jay will lose some time. Alan Craig will lose some time. Probably Matt Adams will lose some time. But I think he'll find a way to get him in there at least 5 out of every 6 days.
So what can we expect? Maybe a 285 average and, maybe 7-10 home runs rest of the season. Is that realistic?
Yeah, I think that's about right. I'd put him on pace for about maybe 20 home runs. So if you cleave that out and, factor in the playing time and all that, yeah, that's about right. That's right.
Don't use big words, man. This is Razzball, brother.
when you slice that up.
Hey, another thing too. When we get to Hoboken, man, you gotta get me some good brajol because the only place you can get good brajol is in North New Jersey.
Tell you what, man, I got some homemade here.
Oh, don't even tell me that.
We don't even mess with those stores.
Taijuan Walker got his first start of the year last night. Now, of course, the Razzballers know I'm kind of obsessed with Mr. Walker. I think he could be a rookie pitcher that could have a massive second half impact. 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 6 Ks. It's baby steps, obviously. The Astros, I think, their offense has obviously improved a lot. What did you take away from his start last night?
It was more the 5 hits. I thought that was kind of nice and low. It was 2 early home runs, really, and then he kind of settled in. And he's got such a long track record in the minors, at least. The only thing I was worried about with him, was coming back from the injury and being okay. And he didn't really show any signs of that. He got stronger as the game went on. So with you, man, I'm all about him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I don't usually get kind of obsessed with players. I try to look at things rationally, but just Taijuan, his stuff is just so filthy. He's pitching in Safeco. He's built like an ace. So I'm hoping for a big second half for him where he could provide a lot of value to your virtual teams. Another guy who's gone bananas this year is Todd Frazier. We love him here at Razzball. Don't break my heart, Nando. Is he legit? Where's he going to go next year?
No, Nick, I was actually, when you sent me these questions last night, I'm like, Todd Frazier, let's do it, man. Last year, my sleepers, my 2013 sleepers, I had him, and I was pushing him as hard as I could. I thought him playing just one position, Scott Rowland being out of there, the lineup being a little improved. I thought all that pointed to Todd Frazier having a breakout season. And Al and Azer, and I think Scott White to some degree, used to make fun of me for saying Todd Frazier speed.
Right.
He had like 3 seasons of 12 steals in the minors, and people kind of dismissed that. And now he's got 12 steals right now.
Absolutely.
So, dude, the power's there. I think the average is maybe like a 270 when all the dust is settled, and the speed is emerged. I love him. I think he's good. I think he's great this year. I think he's going to be solid next year.
So where's he going to go next year? Maybe third round?
I think people would still back off a little bit based on what he did last year, and kind of see him like Josh Donaldson was kind of like a slow burn up to legitimacy, and Brian Dozier kind of had a slow roll up to legitimacy.
Right.
I think Frazier will still kind of be like maybe 6th or 7th round, but
Really?
It's more stigma than anything.
Wow, that's going to be great value. He's a guy I'm going to scoop up in tons of leagues next year. Nando, hold tight with us just for a second. We're just going to go to break. We'll be right back here on Razzball Radio with more Nando DiFino. It's our lucky day. It must be Canada Day. You doing this for me for Canada Day or what?
Oh, 1B, man. That's to do it for the fame.
All right, we'll be right back after this. We are back with the latest addition to the Fantasy Sports Network team, Nando DiFino, talking a little fantasy baseball. So, Nando, Garrett Richards has been awfully impressive this year, especially the last month. The K's weren't there last year. So,
Right.
What's happened? Is he legitimate? Is there a change that's happened that's allowed him to get the strikeouts? His numbers have been amazing across the board, but the K's obviously are attractive to fantasy baseballers.
I think what happened last year, I remember getting a lot of emails about could Garrett Richards be like a dark horse closer candidate for the Angels, because he all of a sudden was throwing, or people were noticing that he was throwing gas. He's throwing 95, 96. I think what maybe happened this year is that it kind of sat him down and said, you're going to be a starter now. No more of this bouncing back and forth to, whenever Jerome Williams is hurt, maybe we'll put you in as the 5th for a couple weeks. That does a lot for a guy, I think. So I don't know if he'll be able to hold it at this level, but I do think he's legit enough to keep the K's up and maybe put an ERA up of, I don't know, I'd say at the end of the season, like a 3.95 would be where I put Garrett Richards. But
Wow.
the strikeouts kind of equalize that.
So where's he going to be next year? Are we talking maybe a top 30 starter?
Again, I think people might not buy into it. It takes a couple seasons for some of these guys who don't have that long track record, and their names have kind of been around for a few seasons to get that momentum. So, yeah, I'd put him more like top 45-ish,
Okay.
maybe 40. But again, it's a perception thing. It just takes a little while for these players to win over a lot of the drafters.
Speaking of K rates, Jordan Zimmerman's really improved his K rate this year upon previous seasons. What's the story there? And do you get concerned when you see a pitcher who hasn't traditionally struck out a lot of guys starting to K guys? Because is he changing something? Is he trying to throw too hard?
Yeah, I've kind of, well, a lot of the times when guys go, and I'm not saying he's hurt, I'm just saying a lot of times when go in for Tommy John, you see them do things that aren't very characteristic of, like, K pitchers will lose their Ks, and guys who never struck out pitchers will increase them. But that happens in like a very small window, and then 3 starts that happens, then a week later they reveal they're hurt.
Right.
With Zimmerman, I'm not sure. I mean, he did have a couple seasons with nice K rates in the minors, but yeah, his downside had always been great ERA, wonderful WHIP, no strikeouts. I honestly have no idea. I was looking at his velocity's the same. There's nothing really standing out in the peripherals that's showing me that he's going to be able to sustain it. So either he was just a young guy who's kind of coming to his own, or this is something that'll be corrected in the second half. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea which one it's going to be.
Yeah. Okay.
How about you? What are you thinking about this?
You know what? I'm when it comes to pitchers, I like guys with track records. I'm more likely to take an upside bat, but give me a guy who's thrown 200 innings consistently with consistent numbers. I even like guys who can, get Ks that don't necessarily throw hard, or guys who are built like horses, like a Kershaw. I'm one of the rare guys who might actually go and get an ace or two early in the draft because I always feel I can fill out my roster later on. Also, the other thing for me is that I think people are keen on streaming pitchers, but not a lot of guys stream bats. And of course, there's the great tool at Razzball.com, the Hittertron. So literally on a daily basis, I'll go through. I always have a couple of flux bench spots. I'll add drop guys, especially, that's the other thing too. Guys don't typically make sure that their at-bats get filled out or the game started get filled out for hitters. So that's one way I try and take advantage. That's just my take on it.
Fair enough. I'm kind of with you. Although Tout Wars this year, I got Scherzer and Strasburg, and I'm like third to last.
Wow.
I was happy. Like, it's some good pitchers. And then it just all kind of went to crap.
We actually had Larry Schechter on last week. Larry, of course, has won Tout Wars 6 times, which is insane. And you just kind of bask in the knowledge. You just kind of sit there and just let him talk, Well,
what about your boy Zinke? He's Canadian, man. He's destroyed Tout Wars for like 3 years now. And I think he's winning labor, too, again.
You know what? I'll tell you. So this year what we did, so we launched the show back in March. We were a podcast for 2 years. And this year, kind of the first stuff we did to actually go tape, we didn't put any of it on air, but just to, cut our teeth was we went down to Phoenix and we went to the big labor draft, of course, put on by Steve Gardner and the good people at USA Today. And, man, I was like, whoa, there's Funston, there's Eno, there's Larry Schechter. And,
yeah.
Listen, look, man, it takes a lot to impress me, okay? But, here I am, because the one thing I geek out on is fantasy sports, and I was just blown away by the presence of these guys. The other thing, too, is I drive the bus, Nando, okay? I am not an expert by any stretch. But watching these guys and kind of how they broke it down and how they were assessing their value based on what they were spending in terms of auction dollars, it was mind-blowing. I'm actually in the Razzball Experts League this year. We got some great guys like Dalton Del Don in there, and I'm holding my own. I think I'm in 6th. But my problem is I can't manage on a day-to-day basis like these guys do. That's the big advantage I think they have. I might have a good draft. Actually, typically that's how I have success is I'll have a really good draft. But the way these guys manage, I can't keep up.
Well, not to put my job down, but I got all day to do that kind of stuff. And I'm sure it's kind of true for some of them, too. You know what I mean? My job is to manage day by day what's going on with my fantasy team. So, I wouldn't be as good of a banker as a dude who works in a bank. It's, I could finish 6th in a banker league.
Right.
It's the job, man. It's what we do all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't feel bad about it, Nick.
Well, you know what? My day job is really corralling the Razzball lunatics. I have so many bail bondsmen on speed dial. That's the one thing I'm worried about with the tour is I got to make sure we got some good lawyers. I'm actually working on that.
I promise chaos in Hoboken.
Well, actually, Smokey, our loogie out of the bullpen from Razzball, he'll be there in Hoboken. The Guru's coming with us on the tour. Jay Wrong's going to be there. We're rolling out the whole crew. There's also what we're going to do is there's going to be a lot of behind-the-scenes footage, so we're going to try and cut a few episodes of that as well for the good people at the Fantasy Sports Network.
Yes.
Listen, Nando, we're going to do one more quick break. We'll bring you back for one more segment, and then we'll let you get back to the home-cooked brajol. By the way, seriously, if you don't know what brajol is, Google it.
Good luck spelling it.
Yeah, I think it's Brajole. Brajol.
Yeah, I spell it with 2 E's.
Oh, okay. Well, it depends what part of Italy you're from, too.
Yeah, so. That's the pork. The pork is with 2 E's.
All right, we'll be back right after this here on Razzball Radio. All right, we're back. Again, happy Canada Day. Also, big day for soccer today as well. USA versus Belgium. And I'll tell you, too, Nando, I am a fiercely proud Canadian. And, growing up in Canada, we love the U.S. It's like cousins, but, you can't root for the U.S., especially when it comes to hockey or whatever. But I'm on board, man. I believe that we will win. That's the first time I've ever rooted for the U.S., and I'm excited. So it's going to be a great game to watch today. You watching it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a cool team. Even if it didn't say U.S. across the chest, it's they got some dudes with dreads, they got some dudes with tattoos. It's a fun team to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. They're
easy to root for.
It's kind of like blending the Euro soccer, fashion style with that, American, ingenuity. I love it. Speaking of American ingenuity, let's head to Detroit. J.D. Martinez has been hotter than a $2 pistol. There's talk they rejig his swing in Detroit, but, come on, this has got to be a mirage, right? This guy's hitting like Miggy.
No, you know what? Like earlier when I was talking about Frazier, JD Martinez is one of my guys 2 years ago.
Right.
And it's if you looked at his minor league stats, he had nice power. His OPS was like always above 930. He always hit like it was like 330 every season. It wasn't like he finished with 330 and had that 1 280 year. He was always hitting three something, and it kind of went downhill after 2012 when the Astros shot him back down. But I think it's legit. I think he just needed the shot, and maybe the tweaks in the swing brought him back to where he used to be.
Okay, so when you did like him 2 years ago and were stumping for him, what did you project over a year? I mean, what is kind of his capacity as a fantasy player?
I thought he'd be about between 280 and 290 with maybe an outside, like a little 5% end of the bell curve chance of 300. And, 20 to 25 home runs. At CBS, we have points leagues, so I always had to factor in, 35 doubles, that kind of stuff.
Right,
but
right.
I liked him. I thought he was a pure kind of hitter. And, there's room for that in fantasy.
Interesting. I like that. That's good analysis. All right, we have been
not one B for nothing, Nick.
We have been debating like crazy here at Razzball over, Jose Altuve. He's been really controversial in that he's been so good. Well, it's not that he's been controversial. It's that if we were going to re-rank some of these second basemen going into next year, Gray obviously really was not high on Jason Kipnis this year. But I'm going to throw out a couple of second basemen. Maybe you can just quickly re-rank them for me. Robinson Cano, Jason Kipnis, Jose Altuve, Anthony Rendon, and Brian Dozier.
I would put them as Cano number 1.
Yep.
Rendon number 2. I like him a lot.
I do too.
Yeah. And then I'd probably throw Kipnis at 3, Dozier at 4, and forgot the last name.
Altuve.
Yeah, Altuve. Oh wait, yeah. Okay, I'll put Altuve ahead of Dozier.
Okay.
Let me re-rank my re-rank. Altuve number 3. I think he's got some power and some speed that still have a little room to flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too with Anthony Rendon, people forgot this guy was likely to have been the first pick in the draft a couple of years ago, and he just slid because he had injury history, or he was dealing with some injuries. I mean, the guy's a hitter, and hitters hit.
Yeah, and he's the kind of guy where you can still, I think, get him kind of cheap because he's not going to hit 30 home runs. He's just a dude you can plug into your lineup and not have to worry about him.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, no, I'm with you on that. The only argument I have against Cano is I said going into the year he might not hit 12 home runs at Safeco, and people say, oh, they brought in the fences, but it's the moisture in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, I'm in Phoenix now, and part of the reason people assume we're at high altitude in Phoenix. We're not. It's because the air is so dry, it allows the ball to just shoot over the fence. Whereas you get the moisture on the, especially up in the Pacific Northwest, it's going to hold the ball down. And I think fences aren't going to affect that. Well, to a degree. I'm just seeing that the power is never going to come back.
Yeah, we had Scott Miller, one of the CBS writers, a couple years ago on our show talking about why Pujols was struggling. And it was the same kind of idea, like the way the weather affects the balls going out. It's a valid argument, man. It sucks for Cano because he maybe made a bad choice in free agency, but good players, and he's good. You could still get a 340 average from him and maybe 20 home runs instead of, like 310 and 30. So I think it just kind of shifts his value a little bit. I don't think he was very affected by that big contract thing that we saw last year with a lot of the players, but still kind of stinks. I still think he's number 1, though.
If you ever want to really get a good look at the Seattle effect, just go back and look at Adrian Beltre's career stats from the Dodgers, and then you just look at speaking of bell curves, you look at the dip in Seattle, and then he brought it back in Texas. And yeah, you're right too with Big Al in Anaheim. People think it's sunny in California. It's not till like 3 p.m.
Yeah, but he's doing all right now. We're happy to see that.
Hey, Jesse Hahn pitched really well again last night for the Padres. 5 innings, no runs, 9 Ks. I mean, this guy's actually started to look impressive. He came up through the Tampa Bay system. Is he mixed league relevant at this point?
I think he is. I mean, you look at his minor league numbers, they're all 2 ERAs and really low whip, and he's got some nice strikeout. It's kind of weird that he didn't get more attention, that we're kind of like discovering him now to a degree, except, on just the grazing level of these minor leaguers. He's legit, man. He's put up good numbers. There's no reason not to like him. He's put up good numbers everywhere. So why not?
Yeah.
I like. I'm I'm not going 12-team points. I am going mixed leagues where you have 9 pitchers of your choosing without that SPRP designation. But like Yahoo League streamers, yeah, absolutely, man. Put him at the bottom of your bench and throw him in when he's starting.
Yeah, no, well, listen, I don't know the Fantasy Sports Network guys, but the Razzball guys are mostly Roto guys. So, points over my head.
Oh, points. Dude, it's an impure way to play the game.
Nah, man, baseball's Roto, man.
Exactly. Football's points, baseball's Roto.
Exactly. It's funny. I'll tell you a real quick story. So when I was a kid, I was a huge baseball fan in Montreal because everyone was, the Habs, the Montreal Canadiens, but they always won. The Expos needed my help, I mean, I was a kid. I was 8 or 9 years old, and we were on a trip, and I found this book. And it was a rotisserie book, but I had no idea what Roto was. It didn't explain what it was, but it had all these player names and their values. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I got to find out. Of course, it took me about another 20 years before I actually did find out what it was. Roto wasn't big in Montreal. Hey, Nando, listen, genuinely, really appreciate you joining us here on Razzball Radio today. You know what? I got a feeling our Razzballers are gonna knock on my door and say, "Hey, get Nando on again." So we might bug you again. Thank you all.
Dude, now that I know how to work Skype, you just let me know.
Sorry?
Now that I know how to accept a phone call on Skype, we're good. You just let me know when you want me.
All right, thanks for joining us today on Razzball Radio. We'll be back tomorrow on Wednesday with Gray. Happy Canada Day, and Americans, get ready for the 4th of July. Tell me where to get fireworks.